Permanent dentition. The sequence of eruption of the permanent dentition is more variable than that of the primary dentition and does not follow the same anteroposterior pattern. Note: the sequence of eruption of the permanent dentition is more variable than that of the primary dentition and does not follow the same anteroposterior pattern. In addition, significant differences in the eruption sequences between the maxillary arch and the mandibular arch do not appear in the eruption of the primary dentition. You can see the table 16.3 showing the chronology of permanent teeth, that is the sequence of eruption of permanent teeth. This is the table 16.13 showing the chronology of permanent teeth, right in the upper jaw and in the lower jaw. The most common sequence of eruption in the maxilla are 6, 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 7, 8 and 6, 1, 2, 4, 5, 3, 7, 8. The most common sequences for the mandibular arch are 6 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 and 6 and 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 7, 8. These are also the most favorable sequences for the prevention. These are also the most favorable sequences for the prevention of malocclusion. You can see the figure 16.13. What is the most favorable sequence? That is numerical of the permanent dentition. By this you can know. First is permanent first molars, then the central incisor, followed by lateral incisor, followed by first premolar, followed by second premolar, followed by canine, followed by second molar in the maxilla. Whereas in mandible, first it is first molar, second central incisor, followed by lateral incisor, followed by canine, followed by first premolar, followed by second premolar, followed by second premolar. This is the favorable eruption sequence of permanent teeth. As noted earlier, should the second molars erupt before the premolars are fully erupted. As noted earlier, should the second molars erupt before the premolars are fully erupted, significant shortening of the arch perimeter resulting in malocclusion is likely to occur, even if the alveolar bone arch dimensions are adequate for the size of the permanent dentition. That means, if the second molar erupt before the eruption of premolars, it will significantly result in the malocclusion, even though the alveolar bone arch dimensions are adequate for the size of the permanent dentition. The eruption of the permanent teeth also follows the eruption of the permanent teeth also follows the tendency for the mandibular tooth of one type to erupt before the maxillary tooth erupt. The eruption of the permanent teeth also follows the tendency for the mandibular tooth of one type to erupt before the maxillary tooth erupts. This tendency is reversed in the premolar eruption sequence. This tendency is reversed in the premolar eruption sequence, right? This is the result of differences in the eruption timing of the canines in the two arches. This is the result of the difference in eruption timing of the canines in the two arches, right? This is the result of the difference in eruption timing of the canines in the two arches. In the mandibular arch, the canine erupts before the premolar, whereas in maxillary arch, the canine generally erupts after the premolar. The timing of eruption of the permanent dentition is not critical as long as the eruption times are not too far from the normal values. The timing of eruption of the permanent dentition is not critical as long as the eruption times are not too far from the normal values. The sequence of eruption varies somewhat, with the dentition in girls erupting an average of 5 months earlier than that in boys. The sequence of eruption varies somewhat, with the dentition in girls erupting an average of 5 months earlier than that in boys. However, gender differences are less significant than the tendency exhibited by the individual in the eruption times of previously erupted teeth. However, gender differences are less significant than the tendency exhibited by the individual in the eruption times of previously erupted teeth. If any tooth has erupted early or late, succeeding teeth, say permanent incisors, canines, and premolars, will also be early or late in their eruption.